Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for subscribing, and let's dive into fishing gale force winds on grass lakes, because this is a thing that is going to happen when you least expect it. You're going to get 20-mile-per-hour winds. Yesterday I was fishing the BFL on Lake Guntersville, and we had tornadoes come through the night before, and then we have 15 mile per hour post frontal, not a cloud in the sky, strong wind all day. So you can still catch bass in those types of conditions. Now, I knew that we were going to get really strong winds out of the southwest or west southwest or the west or the south, somewhere coming from that region. And I practiced my whole practice period looking for south banks. And I just wanted to stay out of that wind. When you have that much wind on a river where it really has a length to build, it's going to find its way. So you have to find the most protected water. You'll still be in the wind. There's no doubt about that. But you need to find something that's going to kind of hold that wind back a little bit. You don't want whitecaps, but those fish in clear water will still bite in almost whitecaps. I mean, you're looking at waves that are close to almost a foot. I mean, your trolling motor is going to be coming almost out of the water, but you can catch fish, and you can catch fish in shallow conditions. I mean, I'm talking 4 or 5 feet of water. You can still catch fish with grass on the bottom. So here's the deal. So yesterday we fished the BFL. I missed the last check by 7 ounces. I didn't come in with a limit. I only had 4. And my 5th fish, I had it right by the side of the boat. It was a big one. I bow up on it. I'm catching them on a lipless crankbait. I reel it up to the side of the boat. It was kind of bird dogging me a little bit. I didn't know. And it was swimming to the boat, not really fighting. Then when it got to the boat, it was pulling. And it's so important to keep those hook points moving in one direction. It doesn't always have to be moving, right to you. Sometimes you just got to walk them and do figure eights with the fish. Instead, I kind of just held them there, held them. And my co-angler went for the net. I was kind of ready for it at that time. And then he made a dive, so I went back down. Co-angler didn't hesitate and just went with the net. And, my fault, most likely, because I should have kept that fish moving around the boat, kept those hook points going a certain direction. So important when you're fighting fish to keep the hook points moving. The barb is not going to hold the fish on there. It's the hook points moving in a certain direction. So we lose that fish, costs us a bunch of money, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is you can catch fish in gale force winds on grass fisheries. Now, you want a water clarity. You want a little bit of clearer water. Now, if you have really stained, really dark water where you can only see maybe a foot or less of visibility, you don't want to be fishing in a lot of wind. But if you have 2.5, maybe 3 feet of visibility, you want to be out in that wind. It's either you fish no wind or you fish all the wind. And when you have it blowing 15 miles per hour right up the gut of a lake, you're going to get all the wind on even the most protected banks. So what you need to do when you're fishing those really windy places, let's say you're catching them on a 1/2 ounce lipless crankbait, go up to a 3/4. Now that wind is going to be putting a lot of momentum on your line. So your bait is going to be coming back. Now you always want to cast either with the wind directly behind you or you want to cast directly into the wind. You want your bait naturally coming, like if here's the wind, you want your bait either coming straight with it or straight against it. But you need to be not coming through the sides of the waves. Very important to go either with the wind, straight to your back. That's ideal, but you can't always do that. Sometimes you have to throw directly into it, but you want to be letting that bait come back with the momentum of the wind. Now back to my lipless crankbait. If you're catching them on a 1/2 will be pulled up into the waves. That wind is going to be pulling that bait off the bottom. You'll have to go down to a 3/4. If you're flipping or throwing a Texas rig, let's say you're catching them on what you would typically catch them on, like a 1/4 or a 5/16, you'll have to go up to a 1/2 or a 3/4. You really upsize when you have all that wind. Now, these weights that I'm talking about, like going up to a 3/4 lipless crankbait or going up to a 1/2 ounce bullet weight for your Texas rig, would never be what you would throw in these types of situations if you had little to no wind. It almost is crazy. It almost makes no sense. But when you have all that wind, you got to realize that it's going to make the fish more active. They're not getting a good enough look at your bait. One thing we're learning with Panoptix is when they get a really good look at your bait and it doesn't look real, they swim away. It happens all day on those really tough days. We just learned this recently, that days where you may only catch 4 or 5 fish, you may have 50 fish swim up to your bait and then swim away. But when you have a lot of wind and you can present a bait correctly to those fish, it works. You have to go up though in your size of how heavy your bait is. And I'm talking like in 2 feet of water on Lake Okeechobee, when you have a lot of wind coming in an area, you got to go up to a 3/4 or heavier weight. If you're just flipping, 2 foot of water, but you need something to get down to the bottom and stay there. And that's the same thing with that 3/4 ounce slipless. Yesterday on Guntersville, I was fishing in 5 feet of water. The grass was a foot off the bottom, so I have 4 feet of water to work with. Well, the waves are probably a foot, so now I have 3 feet, and I'm just feathering that thing, and I'm just barely just moving it, and just kind of fishing it almost like a jig, keeping it moving. And that wind is putting so much momentum on the bait, it's doing a lot of the work for you, but you don't want to be fighting it with that smaller weight like a 1/2 ounce. You still need to have the feel, and you still need to know where your bait's at all times. So try that, guys. Go up to these weights that would be crazy to use on a calm or light wind day. Go up. So let me know how that works for you guys. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.